Hello everyone and welcome back to the Global Emotional Health Summit. We're on day one and I'm delighted to have with us today Robert Moss. I've done 2 trainings with Robert and they were both absolutely, when I say wonderful and all these adjectives I could use, what I got out of them was so much learning. So much of my journey I became aware more. And I think it's this wonderful work we can do with our dreams. And Robert trains people all over the world, a globetrotter he is, in different courses on dreaming. And he's got many books published on dreams. And one of them that we're talking about today is Dreaming the Soul Back Home. Now, I am not going to say too much that I could say about him because I want him to do all the talking this evening. Well, a lot of it anyway. So on that note, welcome, Robert, and I'm so delighted to have you.
Well, you're a lady of great taste and discernment, obviously, Dolores, and I have enough Irish in me to be able to give a little good crack on the subject, I think. Yes, I'm a dreamer, and I'm a traveler not just on the roads of the ordinary world, but the road of the other world, which I think most Irish people who have the traditions of the country in them will understand well. I come from the dream world, and that's what I teach. I teach people how to use their dreams, the dreams of the night, and the dreams of the day, the dreams that come to us when the world speaks to us in the manner of a dream through symbols and synchronicity, to lead juicier, richer lives and to be in contact with the play of forces beyond ordinary observation. This is all very much about healing, and I know that's your theme, so let me talk about that for a moment and then let me get you to push me or prod me or tickle me in any direction that you like.
Sounds good.
This for me is very much about soul. In fact, it's all about soul. My life changed in midlife. I've always been a dreamer, but I became a dream teacher. I gave myself to this road when, having moved to a place in the country, in upstate New York, which some of your viewers understand and know, I found myself dreaming in a language I did not understand. Let me slow down and say I bought the farm because of an old white oak tree that my ancestors and your ancestors might have known, and a particular bird, a red-tailed hawk, a bird of North America, gave me a message at that tree. It dropped a wing feather or a feather of some kind between my legs and gave me the determination to live on that land. So I was guided by the speaking land. I was guided by the birds and the trees and the powers of the land in a way that many of our viewers will, again, comprehend deeply. And on that land, I started dreaming. Actually, I'd just come back from a visit to Ireland. I'd been to the ancient East. I'd been to Newgrange. I'd been to the high holy hill of Tara. I was in pursuit of a wild Irishman who came to the American colonies in the 1700s to make some money and got to know the Mohawk Indians very well and settled among them and never left them. So he was an Irishman who went native in North America with the Native American people. We're distantly connected by family, and we're connected by spirit. So on this land, I found myself, not having heard of him before, dreaming of this Irishman who came to the American colonies and got to know Native Americans very well. And dreaming, it seemed, of some of the American Indians and Native Americans who knew him and tried to influence him. In particular, Arondewana, a woman of power, a dreamer. That's the Mohawk word for a shaman. Radzetsotz, one who dreams. That means a shaman or healer, mother of the wolf clan of her people. She called me in dreams. I'd just come back from Ireland on his trail. I was thinking still in my mind, middle of the night, of the double spiral of the curved stone at Newgrange. I found myself lifting out of my body and traveling through that symbol, which I think of as the eyes of the goddess, and finding myself flying like a bird over the landscapes of my adopted country in North America, being pulled by the tug of someone's intention to a place in the north, somewhere near Montreal, but there's no modern city, there's no modern road. And in the presence of this beautiful, wizened, ancient woman who speaks to me like lake water lapping in a language I cannot understand. Now I know it better than I know Gaelic, much better because I have little Gaelic. But she speaks to me in the language I do not know, and it's not a New Age dream. It is a wild, shamanic, primal vision. I'm with her. She's speaking to me. She's stroking a belt of beaded symbols showing a she-wolf and 2 humans. And synchronistically afterwards, having written down some of the words phonetically, I meet my first native speakers of her tradition, of her Iroquoian way. And they tell me, well, that's right. It sounds like the Mohawk language was spoken many years ago. To cut to the chase, she taught me this, reminded me of this, that all our ancestors know. All our ancestors knew this once upon a time. Dreaming is about soul. She spoke to me of a funny word, ondinunk. It means in her language, the secret wish of the soul. The secret wish of the soul, especially as revealed in dreams. And with that strange word, which it took me a long time to decode and decipher, I learned a whole practice, not just a theory, but a whole practice of dreaming and healing. And it's this, Dolores, it's this. Dreams show us what the soul wants, as opposed to what the ego wants or what other people tell us we can have or cannot have. Dreams show us, they speak of soul. They're not just the language of the soul, it is soul speaking. It shows us what soul needs to be content and happy and alive in our bodies and our world. It shows us that, and the job of decent people in a decent culture that honors the ancient ways is to gather tenderly round the dreamers and listen to the dreams and help the dreamer to identify what the soul is saying, what the soul is calling for, what songs the soul wants, what games the soul wants us to play, what decisions it wants us to make. And as I pursued that thought, that orientation, I learned more and remembered more. I remembered this. Lots of us in our lives, our soul gone. We've lost the dreamer in our soul, the bright dreamer in our soul. That's why so many of us are going through a dream drought. Whatever our practice, whatever we think we are, whatever we think we're doing, we are divorced, so many of us, from the spontaneous gifts of the night dream, the spontaneous gifts of the dream we may not have asked for, may not even want, which is holding up a magic mirror to you in your life, and offering a portal to deeper orders of reality in places of healing and wisdom, contact with the wise ancestors, contact with the shining ones, contact with the God, Goddess of your life, contact with the God, Goddess who will talk to you. All of that is being offered, yet so many of us are divorced from that. Why? I came to understand it's because many of us have lost a vital part of our soul, the bright dreamer in the soul. So at the heart of my work, which I've been pursuing with passion, almost 24/7, because you can be a dreamer with eyes open as well as eyes closed. The heart of my work, Dolores, is to help people find where the soul has gone and bring it back. And that's what we'll do in Ireland in an adventure I'm leading in June.
I know, how exciting. You're coming to Ireland.
I am. It's time.
It sure is. And you're with Dave Maddy. Dave's a friend of mine, and he's a wealth of information, you know, on he's going to be a great host. And you know, it's great, and even where you are, the location is wonderful and everything. And Dave has got he's got such knowledge. It's great.
Well, he's a passionate fellow. He knows the landscapes of Ireland. He walks in a sacred way on the land. He knows the goddess in the land of Ireland. And it was actually only my second visit to Ireland when I met David Maddy. The first one, as I say, was many years ago, almost 30 years ago now. Actually, it will be 30 years now, when I came to Ireland to find Sir William Johnson. That's the English, the Anglified name he took. The family name was McShane, that wild Irishman who came to the American colonies in the 1700s. And that's when I visited the ancient East. I went to Newgrange and had experiences there. I went to the River Boyne and the High Holy Hill of Tara and so on. But when I came back last year, I went to Yeats country in the West. I went to Sligo, I went to Galway, I went to Tor Ballylee. I went because Yeats has been part of my soul and part of my life too. One of my books, The Dreamer's Book of the Dead, talks about my lifelong relationship with William Butler Yeats and the dreams and visions and conversations with my version of Yeats, which guided me to try to complete the Western Book of the Dead that he wanted to write but never could quite pull off in his two versions of the vision. When I came back then, of course, I also met Dave, who's now hosting my workshop, and I felt in him a passion for the land. And he took me to Howth, where we're doing the workshop, and he took me very specifically to a cottage where Yeats lived as a teenager for 3 years. And I looked for, as Yeats might have done, as a romantic, imaginative boy, at those islands that you see from Howth, which were the path of invasion and the path of so much dramatic history of warrior queens, of Vikings, of Celts, of Anglo-Normans and others. So I'm very excited to be coming to that green landscape with that view of water and that connection with the powers of earth and water, fire and stone, where we will dream together in June.
That's so wonderful. I was just getting up the dates here in front of me so that I could tell people the June the 9th to the 11th.
So it has to be 3 days, doesn't it? We're in Ireland. If the number's 3, it's got to be 3 days. It's a 3-day adventure. Yeah,
and it's great. And I've actually been on some tours with Dave before in his company. We would have had a similar teacher that we would have practiced with. So anyway, you wrote a blog today, and today is the 10th of January, and this recording will be going out next Monday. But your blog today really is the essence of, oh my goodness, you know, the way you write is just so, it's so soulful. You know, you're a poet. But what you wrote today in that, you know, it's not a huge long blog, but we could speak an hour just on almost the first paragraph. There's so much in it, you know, and it's, you know, and what you've said there is a lot of it, you know, it's about the soul loss and that. But it's really like, I just wanted to read out a bit, if you don't mind.
Please.
Read my writing, because I scribbled it down a bit. You know, I mean, oh, where would I even start? But, you know, we forget the realms of magic and enchantment. When we wake up, that we forget this magic that we've come from, that we've left behind in our dreams. Isn't it wonderful to think that we're waking up in a day and leaving behind a magical realm that has so much information for us? And I mean, even that sentence, you know, speaking to us about what we see in our nightly dreams. Like last thing this morning, it's funny that this came up actually, and I smiled to myself because I practice with you that I do my active dream work, and I write down my dreams. Sometimes I don't. I'm bold. I just fall back to sleep. But this morning, before I woke up, and I was actually late waking up this morning, I was actually standing on a ley line in Ireland, and I was looking at a magical realm with colour everywhere. And it was like, wow. So that's something obviously I'm going to go back and look at. But like that, when I read your words today then about leaving behind this magic realm, I thought, wow, I actually hit on that last night.
Well, that's wonderful. It's a wonderful convergence. I mean, something in the blog article that you're quoting, I borrowed a story from Lord Dunsany, one of those great Anglo-Irish characters who did a lot for the Celtic revival, actually. They weren't necessarily Irish, they were West Britons in the language of the Irish of that day, but they cared about the traditions and they talked to the people and they gathered the fairy stories. Anyway, he wrote a story about how soul might go away because it can't get the body, meaning the ordinary self, to rally itself, wake up, stop falling asleep, and pay attention to dreams and follow dreams. And this is something that I've noticed. You know, the shaman's diagnosis of the root cause of a lot of our existential complaints. And this is terribly important in our understanding of the sources of illness, the possibilities of healing today. The shaman's prime diagnosis of why there's so much wrong with us is we've lost soul, we've suffered soul loss. What does that mean? It means we've lost vital energy and identity. Why? Because the world seemed too cold and too cruel. Maybe when we were young children. You know, there's a violent alcoholic in the family or some other problem or disappointment. So part of us went away. Where did it go? Well, in Ireland, you understand that. It went away. Maybe it went to a land of lost boys or lost girls. It went away. It didn't stay in the body. Couldn't do that. Life was too tough. And maybe we suffer soul loss in life because you've got to make a difficult choice. Do you stay with him or not? Do you stay in that job or not? Do you stay in that county or that country or not? And you make a choice and it's a difficult choice and maybe part of you resists the choice and it goes away. But soul goes away for other reasons too, like the one evoked in my blog today. We can't find the courage or simply the constancy and dedication and devotion to follow the bigger dream, the bigger creative path that life is calling us to follow, that soul is calling us to follow. We can't rally ourselves. We can't wake up enough. We can't find the courage or determination enough to do the larger thing, to follow the assignment of the soul, to follow the bigger dreams. So part of us goes away because it is disgusted with us. Our creative spirit doesn't like us. We're boring, we're tame, we're cowardly, we're crouching down, we're hiding ourselves from life, we're avoiding that risk. We don't have the courage or the brightness or the imagination that it wants. So part of our creative spirit, Dunsany simply calls it soul, goes away. These are conditions that everybody that I know in this world has suffered at some point or other. So I feel empathy and solidarity and compassion for anybody who's been through this. What I try to do through my books and writings and online courses and trainings and workshops and adventures is to help soul clap its hands and sing, to make the body and the ordinary self a more accommodating, happier vehicle for more of the self to want to come in and be with us, making us whole, bringing out that brightness in the eyes, bringing out that creative fire, bringing out that passion for relationship and for life possibilities. This is the heart of healing. There are all sorts of approaches to healing, but this for me is the heart of healing, to find what makes soul want to clap its hands and sing and join us in the body in ordinary life.
Oh, I just love that. I could listen to you all the time speaking. So what I loved about that and what I took from that, is what I took really, I suppose, from it personally would be that if we're not following our creative path almost as well, whereas first of all, I suppose it's necessary to define what that is, but I suppose we know if our life isn't running smoothly and if we don't feel in alignment with what we're doing, and if we don't have really passion for it, and it's probably then that we'll realise that there's, we'll be getting stuck. I suppose that's how soul loss can manifest. But if we have a really creative passion and we're not doing it, it's amazing to think that our soul will almost say, oh, you're boring.
Well, that's well said. The essence of creativity, the essence of the creative act is you're going to bring something new into your world. It's not about being in any particular field. You don't have to be a poet or a composer or an artist or an architect in order to be creative. You can be doing anything at all. You can be a mother. You can be somebody looking after the gardens. It doesn't matter what your job in life is. The question is whether you can bring to it some new spark of possibility, some new creative vision. So it's about bringing something new into your world. And what is your world? Well, it is the field that draws your passion. If you don't think you're in that field, but can't get out of it yet, try and bring some creative spark and some spirit of play to where you are. Don't spend all day long saying, well, it would be fine if I were doing something else. Until you can do something else, if you really cannot make the jump, do this. Bring into what you are doing a spirit of adventure. I know somebody who hated her job. It was a job that would have looked pretty good on the outside to other people. There was money in it, there was status, but she felt it was really confining and limiting her soul. I said to her, well, can't you play a game about this? She wanted to be a writer. I said, well, why don't you do what in America they call write a revenge novel? I mean, every night take stories about your terrible boss and your terrible situations and write a sketch of a comic novel in which you're having fun using the raw material of this boring, confining everyday life and playing with it. She did that. She never wanted to publish the book. But for the 6 months or so, she found she had to stay in that job. Every night, she's there with a demonic grin, turning the horrible situations of everyday life into a revenge novel with comic spirit, which again, in Ireland, you would understand it from the tradition of satire. So she's making her satire every night with her materials, and that's getting her through. So, but the essential thing is to find what you love and do it and let the world support you. That doesn't mean throwing away all your obligations, responsibilities, throwing away your ability to pay the rent or look after the kids. You don't want to do that. That wouldn't be fine. I mean, you'd be at yourself. You'd be chewing yourself up if you did that. But ultimately, the trick is to find what you love, give your best to it, and let the world support you. And that will happen. And throw aside, finally, everything in yourself that holds you back. External circumstances you may not be able to throw away or ignore for a time. But the key thing is actually to step over, to kick over whatever in you is giving you excuses for not making that creative leap. That's the heart of it. And in relation to healing, Dolores, creativity is healing. It absolutely is healing. I remember in my life, and I've been a writer as well as a teacher for most of my life, many years ago I wasn't feeling too well and I asked for a dream for guidance on self-healing. This is a trick, of course, which you've mentioned, which all of us can play. We ask for a dream to guide us. We ask for maybe direct contact in the night with a sacred guide and healer. It can be as big and as serious and as solemn as that. I'm simply asking of my dreams, I would like a dream of healing because I wasn't feeling too well. And to cut to the chase, in my dream, I'm driving round and round, up and up in a parking structure, up and up, level after level of parked cars, a bit boring, but very fast. It's like a thriller. And at the top, suddenly I'm on the roof, and there's a restaurant on the roof. And my car comes to a stop on the roof, and there's a table laid in great opulence, but also great elegance. And there's a publisher sitting at the table, and I sit down with my publisher, and we have a delightful conversation. I'm so pleased. This space has been reserved for me, and I wake up knowing this. For me, maybe not for you, maybe not for everybody, but for me, writing, creating, getting it published is the very heart of healing. So I returned with gusto to the writing projects I was engaged with, and you know what? As soon as I did that, all those physical symptoms and fatigue went away. So there are different paths to healing, but I'll say this in relation to dreams and dreaming. Most human societies who have known what they're doing have valued dreams and dreamers highly for a number of reasons, one of which is they think that in dreams we can talk to the God we can talk to, or the spirits of nature, or the ancestors, or the goddess. Another is they understand that in dreams we see the future, which we do, not just things that will happen, but things that might or might not happen, depending on whether we can harvest the information, clarify it, and figure out how to apply it. But in relation immediately to this theme of healing, most human cultures across the whole course of human events, and I'm a former history professor and I love history, I will say this: most human societies across the whole course of our odyssey on the planet Earth have known something modern society has largely forgotten. They've known that dreams are medicine in three senses. First of all, in dreams, we diagnose part of us, part of mind, part of consciousness travels through the body. It checks out the body and reports back with a diagnosis of what is going on in the body. What is going wrong? What could be made right? What are the conditions for healing and recovery? What will develop unless you get a handle on it? So first of all, they've understood that dreams are a profound source of diagnosis. The most famous physician of the ancient Greek world after Hippocrates, Galen, wrote a treatise on diagnosis by dreams. Here is a Greek scientist, rationalist, who's reporting in detail how he uses dreams to diagnose his patients and himself, and how a diagnostic dream, he believes, saved his life. So there's that. The second thing about dreaming in relation to healing and medicine is this. We get sick, right? We get fatigued, we get depressed. We need an image to bring us back. Modern medical science is increasingly accepting that our images are received by the body as if they're physical events, if they are the right images and they're strong enough. This isn't some new age hole in the corner stuff. This is what medical science, particularly in areas like oncology and pain relief, are telling us very, very directly. The body will receive the right image as if it's a physical event. It will adjust its behavior accordingly. That fantastic pharmaceuticals factory inside your body will adjust its production according to the images you get it. Where do you get the images that can encourage the body to heal, that can beef up the immune system and redirect it in the right way? Your dreams are a factory of images. Even an image that you detest, an image that scares you, an image you don't want, can be worked through active imagination, or what I call dream reentry, going back inside the dream and working with it in the direction of healing and resolution. Your dreams are a source of the images that can heal your body and improve your life. So there's that. And the third thing about dreaming in relation to healing is this. Dreams, as I said already, show us what the soul wants. They also show us where the soul has gone. You dream, for example, of the old place, the place where you were with your ex-husband, your former lover, your old boss, your grandma. Maybe that dream is not just a memory of the past, but an indication that some part of you left you, separated from you at that time in your life. And maybe that dream would be a portal for a journey, a shamanic journey, a conscious shamanic dream journey, to go back to that earlier stage in your life and pick up any missing bits of yours that would be found there and bring them back. And maybe it could be a portal for trans-temporal healing, by which I mean we have the ability, because we're time travelers in dreaming, and we can do this consciously, to go back to that younger self, be the mentor, counselor, protector, friend in her life, in her now time that she desperately needs. This can change everything in your life. It's one of the core techniques that I teach and practice. We do it with shamanic drumming to power the journeys. We learn that we can travel, and the ideal gateway is a remembered dream, but we can do it through other great ways. We can travel back to a younger self and be that mentor and protector she needs in her own time, and at the same time, we can reclaim from that moment in life when things went wrong some part of our vital energy, joy, and imagination we need today. So the third aspect of dreaming as healing is that dreaming is a royal road to soul recovery, by which I mean reclaiming parts of your vital energy and identity that went missing, bringing them back, getting them in the body where they belong, and living a richer, juicier, more magical life.
And isn't that what we all want? A more juicier life. And that sounds wonderful the way you put that. But I would just say to you, for the benefit of people that are listening to the call, for someone that say, well, you know, I don't have any experience of reentry or dreams and that. I mean, I've studied with you, so I've also studied shamanism, but like it's doing one of your courses to me is it's enough. You don't need to go with any prerequisite. Would I be right by saying that? Just to
The beauty of this, Dolores, as you know, is we all have some material, even if we think we don't.
yes.
Actually, even if we think we don't have any dreams, we have something. When people say to me, I don't remember dreams, or I don't even, sometimes they say I don't dream, they're confused. Everybody dreams.
Yeah.
The sleep laboratories tell us that. If you say you don't dream, you just say you don't remember. Anybody who says that is not telling the whole truth. If you talk to them for a little bit, as I do, you might discover, okay, well, there was a dream you remember from some point in your life, and suddenly we're 30 years ago, back in childhood or back in an earlier stage of life, and that dream they remember becomes the portal, the gateway to a journey of healing. Or maybe they have a fragment, a little bit, they remember a bit of a Beatles song, they remember a sense of color from a dream, just a fragment, just a scrap, but that's the beginning of it. And if they truly have nothing from the night dreams that they can play with, well, they have things that they can be helped to recognize from the world all around them. I mean, I teach people to navigate by synchronicity. That means being attentive, being ready to notice those pop-ups, those meaningful coincidences, the way the world is speaking to you like a set of signs and dream symbols, if you'll pay attention. In my native Australia, the Aborigines say we live in the speaking land, by which they mean everything is speaking. I think this is understood in Ireland up to the present day. The mountain is speaking, yes. The lake is speaking, the river is speaking, the wind is speaking, the bird is speaking, the deer is speaking, other things are speaking, even things we consider inanimate are speaking. So if you can learn to receive, to be attentive to the play of signs and symbols all around you in everyday life, you're already dreaming. And once you do that, you open up the gates and the dreams come back. So the key thing to understand is this. This is a practice that anyone can learn, and it is immediately going to juice, energize, and open up your life. Immediately. It doesn't take any length of time whatsoever. One of the great things, if I can speak immodestly, that I've introduced is the simple everyday practice of talking about this stuff that our society has needed but has not had until now. I call it the lightning dreamwork process. We use it with dreams. We can actually use it with any life material. It is a quick, fun, frisky way by which we create a safe space to tell our life stories to each other. Briefly, very briefly. I know that a good crack or a good story can go on for a long time in a ceilidh or around a fire, but for everyday purposes, where people often have a certain kind of hurry sickness or have to beat the clock in some way, it's a good thing to learn to do something fairly briefly. So we learn that we can tell our dream or tell our story, and we can tell it well. It's a talent appreciated in Ireland, I believe, where the art of storytelling has never died, thank goodness. So we learn to tell our stories to each other well, whether it's a dream or something else. We learn to give them a title, which is important. We learn to ask each other some essential questions. We learn to say to each other, in respect of our dreams or our other life stories, if it were my dream, if it were my experience, if it were my life, I'd think about such and such. In other words, we are renouncing any tendency to play interpreter or authority over each other's dreams or each other's lives. We are here to support each other as we become authors of meaning for our own dreams and our own lives. And always, 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 when we play this game, we want an action plan. We want to move from the dream or from the story into some application that can make life better, that can solve problems, that can get you from here to where you need to go, that might bring you to your dream home, your dream partner, your community that you long for, your creative project. So we have this process. It'll be the heart of what we practice when I come to Ireland. You know already it's the heart of what I teach in all of my programs. It's a core practice. And when people learn this, you know, they become ambassadors for the dreaming, which means wherever they go, having this practice, having this way of opening and holding a safe space for sharing dreams and guiding each other towards creative action, they're appreciated, they're welcome, and people are so grateful for knowing that we have this. So it's all about opening a process that everyone can do. It's all about no one being allowed to play guru or master or expert for others. I know a few things about these things because I'm a frequent flyer. I've done it for a long time. But if you tell me your dream or story from your life, I will never presume to tell you what it means or what to do. I will goad you. I will prod you. Maybe I'll do it fiercely from time to time. But my job will be to promote you and empower you to be, as I say, the author of meaning for your dreams and your life. And when you learn to do that for each other, it is a great thing. It's a great thing.
It sure is. And you know what I can say too, as having done that, is that it certainly can transport into other parts of your life as well. Even when somebody would ask for advice, I would always have the tendency to use that, as well as not just with dreams. You know, well, if it was me, rather than, because we're so unique, and especially when we're talking about emotional health here, we all have emotions that are triggered by different backstories. And, you know, who am I to presume that somebody else has the same story as I have, or even reacts the same way to me? So
well said, Dolores. I mean, this is the method of talking which applies in every area, as you're saying. I mean, for example, we hear people saying, or they hear one girl saying to another, why are you always going out with the same kind of jerk? You know, it's American anyway. Well, it's much better. You might be heard by people who say, well, if it were my life, I'd think, why do I keep going out with the same kind of man? You know, it's the same content, but by saying it differently, it can be heard and received altogether differently. So there's something here about stopping laying on each other and trying to tell each other what it's all about, pretending we have answers, and just opening a space where people can realize we have the answers for ourselves.
yeah, that's very empowering, as you say. And I mean, it is, doing your course is very empowering, and I would highly recommend people to do it. Your Shift Network one, is that still open for people to join at the moment? This will be the 12th of January when this is going out, or is it closed?
Well, no, the new one is starting on January the 25th.
Okay.
And it's a very good one for people at any level of practice to jump in, because actually it's a 12-week course, an online course called Active Dreaming, the Essential Training. And it is probably the most coherent, focused online introduction to the core techniques of this approach, which I call active dreaming, that I've offered so far. It's a very powerful course. I'm very happy with it. I did it a year ago. I've been playing with it again since then and making it even better, but people had a good time with it then. So you do that, you come away with our core techniques and many of their applications for healing, for scouting out the future, for improving relationships, for creative living, and so much more. So that is the course itself is actually starting on January 25th. So people have plenty of time to get onto that if they're interested.
That's great. And, you know, I must put up a link as well for people to the Shift Network one, because it's through the Shift Network that I did the 2 courses I did with you. So something else that you mentioned there as well is something that that I learned from your course and that I practice as well. It's the synchronicities, and it's the, oh my goodness, it's fascinating, and it's wonderful to allow and open up to let that happen on what I call my soul walks, or, you know, if I need, as well as using, you know, you're talking about dreaming in the daytime as well as always, not always depending on the night dreams, but just to be able to, when I go for my walk, just be with it and ask for a sign, or to see what happens, or to see what comes along, can be just fascinating. Would you like to let us know a little bit about the Sidewalk Tarot?
Yes, well, you put that delightfully, Dolores. Thank you. I mean, this is so much fun, and I must say, for those of us who are having trouble remembering dreams, this is a great way to get into the game, because we can all do this. And when you talk about a soul walk, that's the heart of the practice. And give yourself a bit of time to be in the world and notice what's going on around you. Now, one way I call it Sidewalk Tarot. That's one of my names for the games that I suggest, because, you know, you think about it, Tarot, which some of you know, is 78 cards, right? They're very interesting cards. They have all sorts of associations and attributions. I've known Tarot all my life. I mean, I got my first deck when I was in my teens, the old Rider-Waite in those days, but I've taught Tarot. I know it. Many of you know it too. But it's 78 cards. Yes, they're interesting. But the world is dealing us every day a countless number of cards, and they don't have fixed meanings. We're going to figure out our own meanings. The child's chalk drawing, the flight of that bird, the sound of that dog, that snatch of conversation you overhear. These are some of the many ways that the world is speaking to us. So when I talk about Sidewalk Tarot, I'm suggesting games to be played every day like this. For example, you've got a theme on your mind, okay? You go out of your house, you go outside, you go maybe off your regular track, or maybe it's your regular commute, it doesn't matter. You just agree with yourself, okay, on this little transit, it might be a walk around the block, it might be your commute, it might be your soul walk, I will notice the first unusual, unexpected thing that comes into my field of perception while holding in my mind the theme on which I'd like guidance. So let me backtrack and say, so you might start out like this. You might say to yourself, I'd like guidance on such and such. I'd like guidance on my relations with the boss, or my relations with my husband, or whatever. My guidance on my healing. It could be very specific. I'd like guidance on whether to go for that interview or not, or to make that phone call. Then you're ready to receive the first unusual, unexpected, unlikely thing that enters your field of perception from the world as an immediate response to your question. You might think that once is not enough. You might make it a 3-card draw, so to speak. You take the first 3 incidents that come up and you make a story out of them. I wouldn't take too many. You could do a whole Celtic cross, take 10 incidents in a certain period of time. I mean, that's fine if you're also a story lover and want to build a narrative out of it. But often the first thing that comes up is going to be your guidance from the world. And it might be an overhead snatch of conversation. Now, the Greeks had many kinds of oracles. They're great believers in oracles, places of getting, guidance from a deeper source. But one of their most favorite everyday oracles was what they called the Kledon, K-L-E-D-O-N. I wrote about this in my book, Sidewalk Oracles. What is a Kledon? Well, it's sounds or speech coming out of silence or out of the undifferentiated hubbub, maybe, of ordinary life. Let me give you an example of how this works. I had a theme on my mind one day. I'd not actually brought it into focus in my mind as I would like guidance on such and such. I'm just thinking about it. So it's a slightly spontaneous experience. My theme was, can I really manage to handle 2 projects that are coming up in the autumn at the same time? Both require a lot of time, attention, and effort. They could be regarded as mutually competitive. Can I really handle these 2 projects at the same time? I'm a bit troubled about it. So I'm walking my funny little dog to the park. My dog is a miniature schnauzer. He's very cute and very small. I'm walking the dog to the park. Big man I don't know, and I'm not a shrimp, but this is a really big man, gets out of a big truck with a big box of something on his shoulder. He looks at me, he looks at the dog, and he says in this deep basso voice, "Well," he says, "he can't kill both of us at the same time, can he?" I'm looking at this big man, I'm looking at my little dog, and for a moment I'm stunned. I can't think of anything to say. For a moment I'm speechless. I totter up the street, and I'm thinking, what just happened? What just happened? And suddenly it occurs to me, I have a theme on my mind. Can I manage 2 projects at the same time? This stranger has just said to me, "He can't kill both of us at once, can he?" The message is, you can't do both, Robert. You've got to drop one. You can't kill in the sense of execute both of them at the same time. So I've got my message, but now let me just finish the story. I've got to communicate the message, and this is troublesome because it means I've got to make a phone call and disappoint someone, let someone down, and I really don't like doing that because there's someone I'm going to, tell, well, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Well, I think about it. I spend an hour thinking about it. Then I pick up the phone, sadly, reluctantly, and I call the fellow. He's upset. He's angry. He thinks we had an agreement. I'm backing out on it. Then I decide, okay, I'll tell him the story. Said, listen, this is why I made the decision. I tell him the story of the dog and the stranger. He can't kill both at the same time. And the man on the end of the phone cracks up. He starts laughing. It sounds like he's bent up and said, I get it, Robert. The synchronicity stuff. I get it. You made the right decision. I would have done the same thing. No hard feelings. It's fine. So this little episode, these words out of, the noise or silence of the street from a stranger, gave me not only the guidance I needed to make a correct decision, they gave me the way to communicate that decision. It was human, humorous, and made all well. That's an example of how this stuff works on an everyday basis. If anyone wants to call me a mystic, I will say, you can call me a mystic, but I'm the most practical kind of mystic. I want this stuff to work and produce results and keep body and soul together and help us do better on the roads of life, as well as take us to the other world, which I also enjoy doing, of course.
Oh, that's wonderful, Robert. It's a wonderful story, and it's a great way to show people how the Sidewalk Tarot does work, and I have done that myself many times as well. Now, another thing I'd love to chat to you about briefly too is, or not briefly, if it doesn't need to be, is, when we re-enter a dream, let's say, you often tell us that it's good to do something, to take an action. So as well as like knowing what the re-entry means, to actually intentionally then do something, draw a picture. That's more, I look at it, it's like you're energetically putting something down and you're taking steps to bring it more forward, to manifest what it is almost that came through for you.
Shall I tell you a story about dream re-entry to illustrate what's going on here? A story involving an initially horrible image that leads to healing. Shall I do that?
Lovely.
Because not everybody understands the technique. The technique is actually much simpler than you might think. The idea is, if you've been somewhere in a dream, because a dream is also a place, you're with someone doing something in a dream, and usually it's not cloud nine, usually it's not an undefined space, usually in a room, a landscape, something like that. So if you think that what happened in a dream happened in a certain place, then you could probably adopt this idea. You could go there again. You've been to that place. You could go there again. Why would you want to do it? Well, grandma might have turned up. It might have been in your living room, in your sitting room. Your grandma's been dead for 15 years, and maybe you'd like to sit down and have a talk with her. I think in Ireland people do that without dreaming at all the time still, don't they? But anyway, maybe you want to talk to grandma. Maybe you were challenged by something, and it was fearsome, and you ran away. You slammed the door and said, it's only a dream. I don't want to think about that. Well, maybe you want to go back in. It's a bad idea to leave fears unresolved. If something confronts you in a dream that you find scary, it's a good idea to learn to face it on its own ground and bring the encounter to some kind of resolution, bring something back from it. Maybe you're having a wonderful time. You're with your lover in Tahiti or Atlantis, or the fields of Manan Maclear, or the fields of Angus, and you were interrupted, you had to go to work, your partner tickled your foot, your dog came and sniffed you in the face, as mine does sometimes. You had to get out of the dream. You like more of it. You like to go back to that romance and adventure and have that wonderful, wonderful vacation without paying for plane ticket. So that might be a reason for going back into a dream. And there's so many more. You want to clarify the information. Was that car crash in your dream a literal car crash? If so, is it on Tuesday at that corner, by that bridge? Or is it a symbolic car crash that you want to avoid? Either way, you'd like information to avoid it. So these are some of the reasons why you might want to follow the clues, the leads the dreams are giving you, and go back into the space of the dream to do something. Let me tell you a story involving healing in the most dramatic way. So many years ago in my life, a well-known American artist approached me for help. I was staying in the same town. I went over to her place, and she told me the story while sitting on a sofa in front of the closed doors of her studio, her art studio, a very elegant house. The doors of her studio, however, were sealed and locked. She said, Robert, I can't go back in my studio. Let me tell you why. Okay? She tells me the dream. She says, I've been horrified again and again by dreams of a spider that keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I can't get rid of it. And in the most recent dream, the spider is bigger than my foot. It's jumping all over my studio. I try to kill it with a book. I can't kill it. And now I'm so frightened I can't even go back in my physical studio. And the background, very briefly, is that she's had cancer. She's going in for tests. She fears that the cancer has returned. And for her, not for us perhaps, but for her, the spider might be a disease marker, an embodiment of the disease that she fears. So I say to her in my usual brisk way, well, that's a great dream. Why don't you go back inside it? She starts shaking. I can't do that. So, no. I'll come with you. I'll come. No, I'm sitting with her. So I'll hold your hand. I'll come into the dream with you. I'll be with you. I'll be your helper. I'll be your friend. Really? Yes, I will. So let's do it. So it's become cinematic. You can picture this if you think about it. We are sitting on the sofa in front of the closed doors of her studio. I'm holding a hand. We step in our second bodies. You know, in dreams we travel, and in visions. And after death, we travel in subtle bodies beyond the physical. Some of you know about that. Some of you have more to learn. Anyway, just trust me. We're traveling in our subtle bodies, in our dream bodies, beyond the physical bodies that are sitting on the sofa, through the closed doors of the studio or inside the studio. I'm with her. So we both see this at the same time. There is the spider. The spider is getting bigger and bigger. It's anatomically correct. Soon it's bigger than a human. Well, I don't like the look of it up close much, but it's not my spider, so I'm actually not frightened. It's her spider. And she's terrified. She's shaking. Her body on the sofa is weeping. She's weeping in her second body. It's horrifying to her, but somehow, maybe because I'm holding her hand, maybe more probably because she finds a deep reserve of courage in herself. Mm-hmm. She sees it out. She stands there. She faces the spider, and eventually, after what seems like an achingly long time, the spider turns into a beautiful woman. Maybe a version of a Native American form of the goddess named Spider Woman. I don't know, but it's a beautiful human form now. And Spider Woman, let's call her that. The goddess says to the dreamer, you found courage. So I give you two gifts. I give you the gift to shape-shift the energy web of your body so you don't need to get the disease anymore. And I give you the gift to grow the creative web of your life so you will make new pictures and use more media, and you'll be more successful as an artist than you'll ever be. And you ask about follow-through. Well, both promises are fulfilled. First of all, when she goes in for the test, she is cancer-free. She's remained cancer-free ever since. Secondly, she embarks upon an orgy of new painting and new media. She opens exhibitions, solo exhibitions in Berlin, Paris, and New York. She enters on the most creative period of her life. Why and how? Because she found the courage, with just a little bit of encouragement, to go back through the doorway of a terrifying dream, face the fear on its own ground, and claim the power that comes from braving up to what you most fear. So that's a story about what dream reentry might be about in terms of in terms of healing and in terms of creative living.
And what a story it is. Incredible. And it's incredible, and I love that, and I love the action to be taken out of it, because I have done some of those myself, where the most recent one I did was it was about bringing back love to, to different years of my life. So I decided to make actually little hearts for each of my 49 years, and to hang them up and made a little, I got a picture of myself when I was young, and I hung the little hearts off it. So there again, it was an action as well as the dream. So, your students do put these things into practice. You've taught us well.
Well, that's lovely. I love what you did, Dolores. That's quite beautiful. It really touches me. It's wonderful. It's wonderfully creative. I call my approach active dreaming. It's a marriage of shamanism and dream work, but the phrase active applies in several ways. First of all, it means we can be active with our dreams. We can take action from them. We learn to talk about them well and have the fun of telling good stories to each other. We can also be emboldened and oriented by our dreams to take action in life, creative action as you took. We can turn them into stories, art, poetry, etc. You see in the courses you've done with me how effortlessly people become artists and writers and narrators and creative people doing things they didn't think possible before. I mean, all my courses are stealth courses, secret courses, or maybe not so secret, really, in letting out the inner artist, the writer inside and the creator. So we're doing that. But active dreaming is always also about our ability to go consciously wide awake, hyper awake into the fields of dreaming, as real shamans have always known how to do. There's a lot of confusion about who is a shaman these days, and lots of people wave the banner in a way that doesn't appeal to me very much. For me, and this is in the languages of the Western Hemisphere, the languages of North America in particular, a shaman is first and foremost a dreamer, a prolific dreamer, a powerful dreamer, one who is able to shift consciousness and travel to the other world and back with intention and do some good and guide souls on the roads of the many worlds, because a shaman is also a specialist in the care and location and relocation of souls. A shaman is also, we must say this, someone who's intimate with death, someone who's died and come back quite literally. A real shaman has to have done that. I mean, that might be the near-death experience, as it's called these days, but in some it might be a shamanic experience of dismemberment and full initiation. But a shaman must be intimate with death, have death at his or her left shoulder in order to do the things that real shamans do. And in Celtic tradition, and I'm a Celt by ancestry, a Celt and a Viking, sorry to mention that, but I guess Dublin has a Viking history. I'm a Celt and a Viking in terms of the bloodlines. We're all a bit of everything, but those two lines are compounded in me big time. In the Celtic tradition, where eloquence and goodly speech are so prized and understood to be sources of power, we understand that one of the ways of bringing soul where it belongs, and one of the things that real shamans, whether you call them fili or vision poets or poet seers or whatever, one of the ways to bring soul is to tell a really good story, sing the right song, use the poetic speech and the arts of poetic enchantment to bring soul back into the body. In the Mabinogion, to go Welsh for a moment, there's a moment with Gwydion, who is, of course, a colossal trickster, but the moment when he does some real good in a shamanic way by singing a soul out of a tree. The soul is the soul of his foster son, Liu, who's up in a tree transformed into a bird by a curse. The bird is an eagle, which sounds good, but the eagle is rotting and decaying, and its mouldering flesh is falling to feed pigs underneath the tree. So it's not a good scene. What does Gwydion do? He sings an englyn. What is an englyn? It's a complicated poetic form. You've got to count the syllables very well. It's a beautiful englyn involving an oak tree. And he sings his song. He sings his shaman song, and he gets the dying bird out of the tree, and he raises the body of Liu in human form again by singing the soul back home. I'm not an expert on Welsh mythology, but I love it when I find in these old sources things that I recognize as a dreamer today that are relevant to us today. This is an exercise, this is not an exercise in antiquarianism. When we do Dreaming the Celtic Soul Back Home in Ireland, we're engaged in cultural soul recovery, but not in the way of scholars or archivists. We're engaged in connecting with elements of the ancestral past, the wise past, which feed our lives and our sense of identity in positive ways today, not bringing back the taking of heads and other strange stuff we don't need today, but bringing back something like that, the understanding that the right words, the right stories can heal the body, can heal the experience of the world, and can call soul back through poetic enchantment. to the places where it needs to be.
Wow, well said. I hope that that people will, and I know they will. That anyone that will join you in the Irish trip, it'll be phenomenal, or the online trip, because it is quite life changing, really, when you can see that you can, you can, through your own active dreaming, be the active creator of your own life and bring things forward that you actually want. And it's wonderful the way you spoke about that in the start, even that even if you're not doing something you're not doing what your passion is making the best of what you have at the moment, and not, I suppose, going into a victim archetype or lulling in it, but just to go deep, find the energy that will sprout a seed that will grow into an oak tree.
Well put. When I think about, how we sometimes find ourselves at odds of the world and feel stuck or blocked or limited and tell ourselves we can't do this or that, don't have the money, got to stay in the horrible job, got to stay in a bad marriage or whatever. I remember a book that I reread every 4 years. It's a book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a successful psychiatrist in Vienna before the Nazis. Then he was put into Auschwitz by the Nazis, and he's reduced to a skeleton in rags with a number stamped on his arm, whose friends are being kicked to pieces and killed at a whim of a guard at any time. He's got no hope, he's got no possibility, but he discovers in this extremis of horror, this nightmare world, no food, he's dying, he's sick, he can be killed at any moment. He decides that he can use his imagination and thereby change his attitude. So he applies his imagination to thinking about a possible future in which he's fine, he's free, he's well-fed, he's lecturing to an affluent audience in a world city, maybe in New York. The Nazis and the concentration camps are now a memory. They're gone, they're history. In fact, he's talking as a psychiatrist about the history of all this. He's giving a lecture on the psychology of the concentration camps. Listen to what I'm saying. The man is in a death camp. He's in Auschwitz. He's imagining, idle fantasy, you might say, a world in which all of that is past history. The Nazis have lost. The war is over. He's fine. He's lecturing to a well-fed audience in New York. Well, 1 year after the war ended, he gave that lecture in that lecture room in New York that he had imagined. His attitude brought him through. Everyone around him is dropping like flies. He survives. And the key reasons he reminds us in his book is he could change his attitude. In the most extreme circumstances, we still have choice. We have the choice to choose our attitude, and that can change everything. So if your circumstances seem mean or cruel or confined or unproductive, see what you can do by adjusting your attitude, not to meekly accept where you are, but to dream and imagine your way out of it. And in the meantime, till you're really out of it, by bringing some sense of play, some sense of possibility to where you are and making it more of a game. I gave an example of that earlier. These are essential survival tools for living.
Oh, that's great. That's just wonderful. And, it's practical things that people can do from this call even. They're wonderful gems of wisdom you're giving us. Thank you so much. I could go on talking to you forever, and there's lots of questions that I'd like to ask you, but I know we are at the top of the hour, and I'd like to respect your time, obviously. So is there anything that you would like to leave us with?
Well, I'll give you the dreamer's wish, Dolores, to you and all our viewers and listeners. May your best dreams come true, and may you remember them.
Love it. I love it, and you use that a lot in your... Anyway, so 9th to the 11th of June, you're in Ireland, but of course there are listeners, subscribers from all over the world on this call, so I presume that people can go to your website to find out details of your other workshops that you're doing.
Yep. Go to the website. I teach all over the world. I teach a great deal in Europe. I live in North America, and I come originally from Australia, but I feel a great gravitation to Europe, so I teach in interesting places in Europe. And I do all these online courses of the Shift Network, which you've experienced. There's one coming up on January, and there'll be more. And I think we have a fabulous international community participating in those courses. You'll find yourself in the best kind of intentional family, heart-centered family that support each other's life journeys. And because they're available on recording right after the live broadcast, you can do it any time that suits you.
Yes, and that's what I love. I mean, I have gone back in. I mean, I was always very, I did them religiously week by week because I wanted to, when I choose to do the course, I wanted to really delve into it. But I've also gone back because I have the transcripts as well from them. I've printed off some. I know I asked your permission to use something about a hummingbird once in a chakra course I was doing, because it was just a beautiful meditation that you used for the heart chakra and the vision of the hummingbird. And I remember you had a straw, I think, or else I know I drew a picture of of a hummingbird around the heart chakra, and it was lovely. So yeah, I mean, the resources are there for people, and certainly when we do the online ones, we have them forever, which is great, and like we can dip in and out and revisit the material, which is wonderful. So I'd highly recommend a course with you anyway.
So I say you're a lady of great taste and discernment, and the hummingbird is indeed great medicine for the heart.
So Robert, thank you so much for coming on to the call and agreeing to do it. I'm delighted to have had you on. Your wisdom is it's wonderful, and the way you say things I think is wonderful too, because you say things in a way that people can easily understand, and I think that's what can be very important for us, especially when we're on different parts of the mountain in our journey, where we may know something know more about something than another person does in some way, but in another part of our life we may be struggling and can't see outside our own picture. So it's lovely to listen to someone speaking it in a way that we can all find our way home back to soul.
Well said. My pleasure, Dolores. Thank you.
So thank you very much again, and we shall talk to you very soon, and good luck with your trip in Ireland, and see you there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Bye-bye.